Hey everybody, Tony D with a hot take, and this one is, of course, about Antifa. I know, it's just a fascinating subject to me that people could become, I don't know, so ideologically possessed that they actually think communism would work. But here we are. So you have these, well, it became the trend, right? Back in the days of the hippies, it was trendy, but it kind of was in the background of it. That wasn't the main thing. The main thing, sort of in the hippie era, seemed to be like peace, love, and understanding. And that was merely one of the avenues towards that. And I don't think it was totally taken seriously. And because there were so many problems with communism, even back then, that were evident, that was like, come on, man, brothers, they kill people. There were plenty of sensible hippies, if you would, who would say, no, communism isn't going to work. But now you have these guys who are actually all about communism and revolution. I just saw a video last night of a kid. He's given a big speech, and he's got an organization, and he's actually threatening violence and destruction, and he's an idiot. He's an idiot for threatening that. Because when they finally catch him doing something, that videotape will come back to haunt him. They'll play that as trial, and they'll say, when he says, we didn't intend to hurt anybody. Like, oh, well, here's your video. Here's a video of you telling everybody, a crowd of people, you intend to hurt everybody and do revolution. And a lot of these people, as I've said before, they're trenders. They're setting a trend. Now that a bunch of Antifa members have been charged by federal authorities, and they're going to jail. Those trendsetters are like, maybe I'll just sit at home. Yeah, maybe I'll just sit at home and do the work on Facebook. Yeah, power to the people on Facebook. I can make GIFs. And do Photoshop and do memes. Yeah, I'm just going to do the memes at home. Yeah, a lot of those people are just gone. And then it also becomes less cool, right? It's cool to do dangerous stuff and run up to the edge and then run away. But it's not cool to run up the edge and then fall off of it and end up in prison for 5 years. So there's just, the sensible people who in Antifa, if you could even call them sensible, maybe they're just college kids who thought it would be cool. They're getting out. They're out already. I told them to get out, but they didn't listen to me. But now they're listening to, oh man, Fred has been thrown in prison, man. He's crying on the phone, and he says his life is ruined because he threw that Molotov cocktail. Like, yeah, and like I said, what you have to worry about is, are you in the Antifa cell that did something really awful, and did you help do it? In some minor way that'll get you on some sort of conspiracy charge, and then you get roped into it too. My advice to you, if you do, testify against poor Fred. Cut a deal with the feds, call your lawyer, cut a deal, give up Fred. Save your own ass, because otherwise you'll be going away for a while. There's a lot of people who they're just going to be going away forever. And their lives will be ruined. They'll get out of prison. They'll be all messed up from prison. I mean, that'll be an experience that'll take them years to sort of overcome. If they have family, hopefully they'll be able to overcome it. If they don't, who knows what's going to happen to them. There's a lot of horrible things that can happen to you. For all the drug laws that we have, they can't keep drugs out of the prison. So, some people come out of prison addicted to drugs. It's a shame. So, what I think we need to do is actively look to deprogram some of these people. And you have to be very wary of these people too, because a lot of them, like I said, they're trendsetters, they're sheep, they jump to the next trend. They are going to jump to the anti-woke trend. They're going to jump to Trump. A few of them, not a lot of them at first, but it's going to happen. When they see, these are the same people who only vote for winners. That's it. Like they go to vote and they're like, well, who's winning? Oh, I like him. Oh, he's not winning anymore? Oh, I like the other guy. They're that sort of shallow. They they kind of just, they're hive mind. They're all the people on Reddit, basically, except me. Uh, yeah, and nobody in the hive mind thinks of themselves as the hive mind, by the way. So I could be, but I don't think I am. I'm very contrarian. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these people, they're just caught up in it. And, you know, a lot of them are just going to suddenly discover America, suddenly discover Trump. And we've been through this pattern before. We went through this pattern in the 80s. And that's why I get kind of laugh sometimes at Tim Pool when he talks about Civil War and how he bought guns now and how he's freaking out that we're all going to be in a fighting in the streets. And I know he's not totally serious about that, but it makes me laugh because this is exactly kind of what played out in the 80s to a lesser degree. There was a little more time between the hippies and the 80s than there was between Antifa and Trump, but it was a very similar thing. You know, people were like sick of talking bad about America. They were sick of Vietnam films where, oh yeah, we were wrong to go to Vietnam and all that kind of stuff, and we lost Vietnam. It was always a sad movie, and they played Jimi Hendrix, and everybody was, the guys all died, and they addicted to drugs. It was always like this depressing movie. They would just crank out these Vietnam movies all the time, and after a while, it was just like, eh. And then at some point, it started to turn, and I think it was Rambo that kind of, culturally kind of turned it a little bit. Rambo was a big hit, and it was like, oh, Rambo, he's not going to take this crap. He's a Vietnam vet. And, so even though, the movie doesn't take place in Vietnam, it takes place in America, but you kind of felt his frustration, right? And it kind of represented, the soldiers coming home. They have all these skills to kill people, and they can't live at home because they're used to all that. And then Rambo sort of morphed into more Rambo. Like the first Rambo movie is amazing. It's based on a book, and it's really good. It's really good. Stallone's great in it, and it's just a great kind of movie, like a serious movie. The other Rambo movies are kind of more cartoony. Where Rambo goes back to Vietnam and wins Vietnam, and he fights some Russians, and then it becomes like a cartoon. They actually made a Rambo cartoon, by the way. If Google that sometime if you're bored. But my point is, we kind of went through this, cultural malaise where it was like, America sucks, man. There's so much corruption, and Vietnam, and blah, 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 and Watergate. And then we came out of it. Then it was like, America's not so bad. And then the 80s was like, hey, America's cool. And part of that was Ronald Reagan, but it wasn't all him. And then tear down this wall happened, Miami Vice, and, people were like, cool again, like making money was cool again. People wore suspenders, and watch American Psycho if you want to see a little glimpse into that era. And it was like, then it became cool to be all gung-ho for America, and those trendsetters moved over to that, and then suddenly they couldn't get enough of America. They couldn't wave the flag enough, and that annoyed everybody. And then we went back, and then the 90s was kind of a reaction to that. It was like, oh man, shut up. We get it, America. Okay. So it's a problem with these sheep. They kind of bounce back and forth on all these trends. So what you're going to see now is a lot of these Antifa trenders, the guys who support them, the guys who went out in the street, they're going to start thinking twice about it. They're going to say, this is getting old anyway. I was just about to quit. Oh, you were just about to quit right after they threw 74 people into a federal court with very serious charges? Yeah, they're starting to think twice about it, because now it's not going to be as fun. It's not going to be as fun looting if they're going to arrest people. What's up with that? And what we're going to see is the total opposite. We're going to see these people turn the boat around and start saying, you know what? Trump's not so bad. And suddenly they're going to be on board. And that's part of that plan is unconscious, but part of it is what Trump does. Trump kind of does what you want to do, or takes part of the positiveness of that and does what you do, so you can't criticize him. What was the one thing he did recently? I'm trying to think. He's done so many. When it came to prison reform, let's say, that was an issue of the Democrats, and then the Republicans actually did something, and it's like, well, now, the Democrats can't make that an issue. So for all these idiot Antifa members, if they suddenly turn over new leaves, say, oh, you know what, I love Trump, and they just start being a Trump, and it's like, oh, well, I guess I can't criticize you. But you kind of can, because they don't really understand it. They don't really understand capitalism. They don't really understand America. They don't understand history. They're just doing the thing that's now the more popular thing. And it's up to us to sort of call them out. You don't want to discourage them. You don't want to kick them out. But you want to say, hey, dummy, here's the stuff you should read and know, and, to actually, want capitalism to work. You should get a job and get off of Facebook and stop live streaming every 10 seconds about your stupid opinions. And, actually know things. Actually have principles. So the next time, the communists creep in and say, hey, we could actually have a revolution this time. This time it'll work. If you have principles, you could say, no, communism doesn't work.